How do we stop the weaponization of government? And Mark, also, the president has floated this Impoundment Act issue. Is it constitutional? Something that I'm curious about. So please, can you navigate those two topics?
Sure. The weaponization, Charlie, awful, right? It was the Biden administration, kind of a long time, sort of in the making with the left. But the Biden people and all of their allies around the country, right? Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, just used the law to go after President Trump. They perverted the law. They twisted the law. This wasn't the case of somebody doing something wrong and enforcing the law. This was twisting the law to get their political opponent. Absolutely despicable. The American people, I think that was on the ballot, and they rejected that. Here's the thing. The president needs to assert operational control over the Department of Justice, right, and the FBI, right? He is the president. There's only one head of the executive branch. That's the president. They all work for him. And so there's been this notion since Watergate, sort of, that somehow the Department of Justice is independent from the president and they get to look at what they want. And what we see is this deep state, even under President Trump, when they were going after him when he was president, of looking to sort of take out political opponents. And so the president needs to assert, and through his appointees and through his direct action, what the Department of Justice is going to look at, right? What they're not going to look at, things that he's not interested in, he should shut down. And I've written a number of articles on this, kind of the history where President Washington, Adams, Jefferson, lots and lots of examples of them saying, prosecute this person, don't prosecute this person. It's completely in the norm. And the left wants to make it norm breaking. Why? Because they want to break apart the executive branch and make the president weaker. OK, so and that includes the FBI. I think you should fire Chris Wray, obviously the president's decision. But Chris Wray at the FBI, send a signal. The FBI is out of control. They work for the Department of Justice, who works for the president. They need to look at what the president wants them to look at because he's the head of the executive branch. It's just that simple, that constitutional, and there's history for it. Okay, moving over sort of to, and I'm happy to talk more about that, but in terms of the impoundment part, that's another law coming out of what I call the Watergate era, the post-Watergate era, which I think were all laws meant to undermine the presidency, to cripple him in the work he does. You had the independent counsel statute, right, in 1978 that literally had federal judges setting up prosecutors to go after the president's appointees, and the president had no control over it, right? And the Supreme Court upheld it, I think 8-1 or 7-1. It was a monstrosity, but it was all meant to weaken the presidency. The Impoundment Control Act is the same thing. It came out of the Watergate era, and it basically says, hey, Mr. President, when we appropriate $100 billion or $100 million for a project, you have to spend every last cent or you are breaking the law. All right. So if you can build a tank, let's say it's $100 million, you can build a tank for $80 million. That $20 million, if you don't spend it, you are breaking the law. The only way you cannot do it is to actually go back to Congress and say, pass a new law rescinding that money. That's just insanity. It's stupidity. It's opened up the flood of spending over the, past many decades, and it cripples the presidency from having agency, from kind of saying, I can run this thing more efficiently. I can do a better job, or these are programs that are not good, that are unconstitutional. And we sort of tried to go down that road during the first administration. We did try and rescind funds under the Impoundment Control Act. We saw up front how it doesn't work, how it actually does undermine the president's constitutional authority. So I think the president's idea said it's unconstitutional. But it's a great way for Elon Musk and his new commission to find savings and then go to the president and say, I recommend that you impound these funds. And I think we're ready for the fight. We've done a lot of work on this issue.
Mark, great work. Thank you so much.